By now, you've probably heard about oxytocin. Oxytocin is often called the love hormone or the trust hormone. And when you're with somebody and you like them, your brain lights up and you secrete oxytocin. And there's activities that allow you to secrete more oxytocin. I want to call attention to some of the benefits and downsides of oxytocin and a way that you can build oxytocin. So, oxytocin makes you feel really good. And when you're with somebody, your brain literally lights up when you're around them. And it's really because of oxytocin. What you can do if you want is you can promote oxytocin. You can build up oxytocin. There's oxytocin building activities. Now, if you're single, it's very helpful. You can take a walk in nature. You can feel wonder at the trees and the birds and the animals and the plants. You can have a dog or cat or a pet, and that helps build oxytocin. Taking care of other people or helping people, like at a shelter, builds oxytocin. Things that make you feel good about what you're doing with other people build oxytocin. Interestingly enough, oxytocin is also secreted when we secrete something called vasopressin, which is also called the antidiuretic hormone. So when you go to sleep, you don't want your bladder being full and you don't want your blood thinning out or thickening, because when you're sleeping, if your kidneys were working at full speed, your bladder would fill up and your blood would get thicker because you're not drinking liquids and the liquids are into your bladder in the form of urine and your blood becomes sludgy. It happens anyway, and there's ways around that, but antidiuretic hormone is normally secreted when you sleep to keep your kidneys from working at full speed and to keep your blood from sludging up and getting thicker, basically. So if you have to get up to pee all night, it probably means you don't have enough antidiuretic hormone or vasopressin. Also, because of the way nature works, hormones have different purposes. If you're a mother or a would-be mother who's pregnant and your pregnancy is, the baby's ready to come out but wants to stay inside, who wouldn't? They give you an artificial form of oxytocin in order to begin uterine contractions. It's a much higher dose than what you would normally create in your body, but it does that. So it has multiple uses. There's also a spray you can get, a nasal spray, where you can take oxytocin. You can't swallow it because it gets destroyed in the stomach, but if you inhale it through your nose, a nasal inhaler, you can get some oxytocin. I don't recommend it. I think there's downsides to it. I think you have to produce it naturally. It's produced in the brain and the testes and the ovaries, produced in different places in the body. And the activities that produce it are things where we like someone, feel good about someone, feel good about what we're doing, that type of thing, especially cuddling with somebody, stroking each other, looking in each other's eyes, eye gazing. Try to look into your partner's eyes for 30, 40 seconds or a minute. It's hard. That builds oxytocin. They also did a study a while ago with male rats. They found out that the rats have much better erections when their oxytocin levels are high. And for some reason, along with that, it caused the rats to yawn. So they had good erections and they were yawning. So for whatever that's worth, I do find that men who have good high oxytocin levels are going to have good, strong erections, and they have a much, much better time during sex. They have much greater feeling and sensation and feelings of pleasure. And the higher you go with oxytocin naturally, the better it is to have a partner and to have sex. I think the problem today with so many people is that they don't have a partner. They're sitting behind a keyboard or their phones all the time, and they're not interacting with people, so they don't have high oxytocin. One of the things have you ever seen one of those shows where they show a watering hole? In the watering hole, animals have to go there to drink water. They have to drink water. But you have a predator like a lion, and you have a zebra, for example, which is a prey animal. And how do they stand side by side drinking water? It's because of oxytocin and specifically vasopressin. When you're thirsty, your oxytocin levels go up. So one of the ways of actually raising oxytocin and vasopressin is by being thirsty. And if you're thirsty, your oxytocin rises. Oxytocin increases trust in other people. So that's what allows the animals to go to the watering hole so that a zebra can drink water next to a lion. The lion's going to try to eat the zebra at some point, but oxytocin makes everybody feel good, and the lion and the lamb can lay together at least for a very short period of time before when the lion tries to eat the lamb. But that's what allows the animals to go to the watering hole. Otherwise, they would thirst to death. I do want to say one other thing about it is people ask me, how do I increase oxytocin if you're saying, Matt, you're not supposed to use nasal spray. You're not supposed to take it. It's not good for you. And you may not know this. I have about 80,000 people I've coached over the years. I run the largest alternative health online university. You can join my free newsletter, and I'll send you a copy of my book for free. It's dailymedicaldiscoveries.com, and it'll ask you to put your email address, and I'll send you a copy of one of my books. I have published one of the all-time bestsellers on longevity, Healthy to 120. It's now in its third edition. So if you want to increase oxytocin, I found one way of doing it. I was studying probiotics, and I found a specific strain called Reuteri, and Reuteri lowers inflammation, helps raise testosterone, supports healthy testosterone levels, and raises oxytocin. And I noticed that when I used it, I was taking it as an experiment, and I could tell my oxytocin level goes up. I can tell because of how I feel about my wife. Those feelings, they're really high, they're a little bit lower, they're really high. I could tell. Once you get used to this feeling, you can feel where your oxytocin is. And after you've had a ejaculatory orgasm as a man, your oxytocin level will fall. You can tell, and your vasopressin level rises, and you can tell. That kind of makes you feel satiated and uninterested for a while. But when it's high, oxytocin makes you feel really good about your partner. It makes you feel these huge feelings of love. They're just, you can't even believe it. It really does make the world go around. I put this in here, and it's Urgent Oxytocin Assist, and it's supporting healthy oxytocin levels, and it's anti-inflammatory, and it has been shown to raise testosterone levels to some degree as well. And I think it's been a really good probiotic. What's interesting about Reuteri is it doesn't have to be alive to work. You could take this bottle and put it in an oven. I don't advise it because it'll melt, but if you heat it up slowly, you kill all the bacteria. It still has a good effect. Now, we use live ones, but it's interesting. It doesn't really matter if they're dead or alive. But if it is alive, Reuteri is one of the probiotics naturally found in our gut. Maybe not this strain, but certain strains are found in our gut. They colonize the gut, and they secrete these very powerful antibiotics to protect themselves and to outcompete other bacteria in the gut. And these antibiotics have very unique qualities, and they're very helpful for our bodies, especially for people that might have bacteria in their small intestine. The small intestine is supposed to be more or less sterile, but a lot of us have an overgrowth of bacteria called SIBO, small intestine bacterial overgrowth. And if you have the Reuteri, it may help to build more antibiotic naturally in your gut that may lower the count of bacteria in your small intestine. Who knows? Could be. But I'm not really sure about that. It sounds plausible, but I do know that there are some good studies supporting it raising oxytocin, and that it does seem to help testosterone levels. It does seem to help digestive health. It seems to be an altogether wonderful probiotic. That's my story about oxytocin. If you've enjoyed this and you want to hear other ones, there's a lot of stuff that I can't talk about here. I get slapped on the wrist or censored many times. So I've learned to be careful. So if you want to get the stuff that I can't discuss here because they won't allow it, dailymedicaldiscoveries.com. Join my email list. Get my newsletters and get all the stuff that I can't talk about here. And I'll see you next time. Thank you so much.